make sure that with us going through these zodiacs, don't think of just because you're a certain sign, there's certain pros or certain cons, and you're this and that person's that. No. Take all the pros that you have under your sign, cut out the weaknesses as much as you can, and take as many of the strengths from the other signs you can learn, other things that you see that they do better than maybe what your sign does, and really learn to embrace who they are. And then you can truly understand empathy. Then you can truly understand the word that you understand someone. But until you do that, you don't really understand someone and you don't really empathize.
Very true.
Right?
So with the zodiacs and going into the new year, maybe we talk a little bit about career and potential things to look out for, potential things to be aware of.
Of course. So how about we use a visual aid? Would that help? Okay. Maybe that would make it easier for the average person that maybe is not well versed in the Chinese Zodiac. Okay?
So for those listening, we're also recording this on video. So you gotta check out the video version as well.
Well, there you go. So if you want to hold that and display it so the camera would see. So we're going into the year of the boar. So let's say you are in the sign of the rat, okay? How does that affect the sign of the rat? Well, we know the rat is very hardworking. We know the rat's also very loyal, but the rat tends to only want to collect things, acquire things, and not discard things. So remember we talked about baggage?
Yep.
So the rat has one of the hardest times to let go of baggage because they think they have to acquire as much as they can because they're the smallest. So they think they need to have as many things as possible. And so we have to be very cautious now for rats when they go into this new year, because you have to make sure that they're not acquiring the bad things, the bad habits, the bad unhealthy new habits that they're going to encounter, or the bad people that are toxic. They have to make sure that they are not afraid to let go and to get rid of that baggage so that they can acquire something new in the new year for newness to come. Because remember, when rats go, they don't necessarily just travel by themselves. They go in packs, right? They always understand there's power in numbers. But what happens when the rat's by itself and it's strayed?
Does it get fearful?
No, it becomes prey to something of a predator. Make sense?
Right.
So for rats now, they have to understand if we're going into the year of the boar and they want to make sure they're ready for that, they have to make sure that they stay with as many of their qualities and as much of their loved ones and trusted ones, and really develop those relationships so that when they're tested during this year, that they don't become the prey.
Excellent.
Make sense?
Yeah.
And then we can go even deeper because then there's different elements and whatnot, but that's just the basic understanding of how rats should really understand.
I think just the basics
You understand?
is suffice for now. And if you always want...
You don't want to overburden.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So you want to go through the ox?
Of course we can. So a lot of people, they're not familiar with oxen. So they are one of the hardest workers out of any sign, and that's why they're on the zodiac. Now, they're one of the strongest. They can pull just about anything you put on their back. You know that, right? And they will, with the right motivation, pull anything to anywhere you point them to. I'm pretty sure you know a few.
I know an ox.
So, but the issue that we have with ox is they may be hardworking, but they wear blinders. So as soon as they're consumed in their little world, nothing else can be seen. Nothing else is in the macro level. They're in the micro level. And once they're in the micro level and not in the macro level, they suffer. Emotionally, mentally, and then physically it goes into illness. So you have to be very careful that, okay, you want to be hardworking, but make sure you see the bigger picture all the time. Because when they go to work, they go like this. When you go to work, you need to be like this to see everything. So then you know what your efforts are going towards better, so they become more efficient. But if you're like this and you just think go to work, study, or do whatever to cram, and hard work just to be the best worker you've ever been. But if you're like this, it'll be very difficult to be in a leadership position. And you'll always feel those are getting ahead of you before you because they're willing to look up and see the bigger picture, even though they may not have the same qualifications, even though they may not have the same contacts. But just because they're willing to see the big picture and oxen maybe not, they lose out. So the ox has to really make sure that they raise the head up and really see the big picture. Otherwise, they'll miss a lot of opportunities this year.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if anybody knows an ox or knows a rat or knows the other signs we're going to go through, it's so easy to build a connection and see how that person actually has those characteristics.
Of course. So the tiger. Do you know anyone that's a tiger?
I do.
Okay.
A couple tigers.
Yeah? So before I describe this part, I want you to share what is the one thing you think that of all the tigers you know they have in common.
Quick temper.
So one thing we have to be careful of with tigers is their emotions blind them. So let's picture ourselves as a tiger right now. We're in the wild. We have our eyes set on a target, prey. Does the tiger look up in the sky and start counting clouds? Does it look into the trees and start counting leaves? Or does it look on the ground and start counting blades of grass? Does it try to create a mathematical equation to say how many steps it can take to reach its target and then back and then have to tell everyone but then never do it? Does it do any of that?
No.
What does it do?
It's just focused on
the target. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
So where tigers get lost is the distractions become a very big problem, and that feeds their emotion. Specifically, women tigers, lady tigers. So we have to be very, very careful with these tigers because if they don't know how to keep those emotions in check, it will rob them of the opportunities that are literally right in their face, the target. So if we're not careful, we can all be like tigers. We can all lose those opportunities. But we have to learn that don't let those distractions get in the way, those emotions get in the way, so that when we set a target, we can hit them sooner, faster, quicker. So then you're becoming a peak performer, you become efficient, so you get more things done. Now this year, tigers have to be very, very careful because in the year of the boar, boars are known to be very intelligent. Tigers don't like to be outsmarted. So this year, for tigers specifically, they have to not take things so personal when someone is sharing things with them and really understand the angle that someone shares something with them. Because this year, there will be a lot of doors that can be opened, but if they close and seal and lock everything away, it'll be very difficult to allow anything new to come into their life so that they could evolve. Make sense?
Yep. So we'll carry on.
Want to show everyone? So the rabbit. So I'm not sure if you know any rabbits.
Rabbits? I don't know off the top of my head.
So the problem that most people don't realize is they think of a bunny when they think of a rabbit. So they think it's cute, it's fun, it's innocent. But here's the problem. Everybody wants to protect that little rabbit. Everybody wants to make sure that it feels no pain and make sure that it's aesthetically pleasing and make sure that it has everything it needs. Problem is, the rabbit has to go through its own course and learn the hard way because the rabbit has very little patience, very little discipline. It wants to jump from one place to the next and never finish. So a lot of rabbits do where they start many things, but they never finish anything. And that's like a curse for them. So what they have to learn is to be like that ox, hardworking, and everything you start, but you must finish. In Chinese, we say yao tao yao mei, which means everything you start, everything has a beginning, must have a proper ending, just like the year, correct? Yep. So with rabbits, they don't focus on that. They focus on whatever was flashy in front of them at that moment. And so they jump to or go to wherever that is. So, and remember, they need a lot of attention. So we have to be very cautious not to feed the ego and make sure that they learn the lessons that they need to learn, because if they don't learn them when they're young, they will never learn them.
I actually do know a rabbit, and I can so see those qualities.
So they have to be very careful. So the dragon. So a lot of people don't realize this, but they say, well, how come every single sign in the zodiac is on planet Earth except the dragon? And what people don't realize is every one of those zodiacs borrowed something from this, the dragon. Even us as humans borrow from there. In the Asian culture, everywhere you go, there's a dragon on the roof, dragon on the knocking of the door, dragon on people's clothes, dragon on just about anything. Dragon on pillars, windows, everything. Mm-hmm. Why is everything adorned in dragons?
Maybe because they are almost like a guardian?
Because I'm not sure if people understand this, but the word dragon comes from the Greek word draconis. That means protector of treasure. If we all borrow from this, and if we think back and we go through and we see in all Asian culture, paintings, scriptures, everything, the dragon is always chasing or always protecting that ball. Mm-hmm. That ball is the consciousness. That ball is us, energy. We have to learn to conquer all these different, signs, all these different qualities, so that once we do that, then we can really activate that ability to bring out that consciousness so that we can also, too, achieve the same qualities that the dragon have, which is, most people don't realize, dragon's also very loyal. Dragon's also very smart. Mm-hmm. And a lot of things come easy for the dragon more than the other 11 signs. Mm-hmm. Because just of the year of the dragon. Because everything else borrows from it. So when they go into business now, they get things, or certain deals will open up easier for them, or certain doors will open, or certain opportunities will present itself where it's easy for them to have an easier life than the other signs. Just because of that sign. Because all the others borrow from it. Now, the average person will say, well, that's not fair. But it is fair. Because if you think about what you did in your past life, you think about your bloodline, you think about everything you've done, everything you didn't do, you see how everything perfectly lines up into this life. And so we have to never say, that's not fair. We have to say, no, you know what? Let's make do with the hand we have, and let's make the best of it. Mm-hmm. So with the dragon, they have to be cautious this year, especially with their money, their wallet. They have to make sure that they save as much as they can and not splurge, because the dragon does tend to like to get things they don't necessarily need. They do like to get things that suits their style or lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And they have to make sure that they don't overdo it so that they can save for the rainy day, because when they're infatuated with things sometimes, they become so consumed by that infatuation that they start to lose that ability to have things come easy for them, because they were not good caretakers of the blessings that they were given.
Right. And it's kind of contradicting, because it's the only one that's not on Earth.
That's what people think.
Okay. Well, we'll save that for another episode, I guess. But because we want to get through all these, but maybe they're, not being infatuated with those material things is an important thing that they need to be aware of.
Of course, because you have to be understanding that it's these infatuations, these attachments, these distractions, all these things that all these different signs fall prey to, that really hurt us from really maximizing our peak performance. Mm-hmm.
Which is what we're trying to help everybody accomplish.
Correct. The snake. Now, when you think of a snake, what's the first word that comes to your mind?
Just slithery, like sneaky.
There are many people who may not understand this, but in the Asian culture, when you have abused your ability as a dragon, you immediately fall down to become the snake. That's why they go right after each other. Mm. So the snakes are like the fallen dragons, those that have all the blessings and did wrong by others, hurt others, cheated others, stole from others, lied to others. right? Abused others. So by having all these blessings and then hurting others because you think you have a certain entitlement, or you think you have something that you have to show off, brag, or boast, when they do that and they abuse a lot of these things, then they become the fallen dragon and become the snake. And in Chinese, when you say death, it's almost the same identical sound of snake.
Because it basically died from being a dragon to the snake.
And you died your qualities. You died your honor. It died inside of you of that soul. You sold the soul. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you look at a lot of the snakes, you have to be very cautious to make sure when you look at them, they may be hardworking, but they have a lazy side. They think just because they work hard at one thing, that they could be lazy for everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Not good. Second, they don't tend to like to talk a lot. They like to hold everything inside. But when they do talk, a lot of times when they talk, they hurt others.
Mm-hmm.
With what they say. Very, very bad. Lastly, this year will be a great test for the snake. They may have improved health now, but now it will be a test on their family. It will be so much a test on their family, they will be challenged to see who their real family is. Because when you look at a lot of snakes, when they're together, they don't necessarily become very aggressive. But when they're by themselves, what happens?
It's when all of it builds up.
By themselves, they have adapted their body and their entire being to look exactly like the environment. So snakes that live in trees take on the color green. Snakes that are in the mud take on the color black or brown. Snakes that are in the desert take on the brown.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know that? Like rattlesnake. So it's like, how come they've learned to change this so that they could get something as a predator? But what happens is when they are in that state, it is very difficult for them to find loyalty. Because when they say things that are not helpful or not conducive to relationships, or they do things that are hurtful that they don't think is hurtful, they burn bridges. And they don't have many people left that they are loyal to them. So they have to be very careful with their family this year.
Well, thank you. And I think it's so beneficial, not just if you're a snake, but any of these zodiacs. It's important to know them, like you said, so you can understand people and empathize with them.
Correct. If you don't understand this, then how can you say you have empathy for somebody?
Right.
Right? Yeah. So the horse. Now this shares a lot of same qualities as the ox. Now what people don't realize, horse tend to be a little faster at getting a job done than the ox. But what happens with horse is they are a lot more stubborn than the ox in many cases. That's why when you look at horses, they are not necessarily great leaders, but they serve great masters.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at the king, had to find the best horse to serve the king, right?
Right.
Horse ran the fastest. They got the best, fastest horse, so the king could get to point A to point B quicker than anybody else in the kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
Correct?
Mm-hmm.
So they are great at serving great masters. But when it's time for them to be in a leadership position, they have such a tough time because this gets in the way. Stubbornness, ignorance themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have to be cautious that if they are in a leadership position, they have to develop more skills. They have to develop those skills around better talents to make sure that they can maintain that leadership position. Otherwise, they will be very easily replaced this year by someone who will outsmart them. So sheep. Now, out of all the signs that are on the zodiac, sheep are the most attuned to beauty. So if you know someone who's sheep, they love everything beautiful, love everything minimalist, love everything their way, love everything has to be planned so far ahead so it can look picturesque, perfect. That's the sheep. They're hardworking, but that vanity that they strive for, that perfectionism, robs them of a lot of their time, a lot of their efficiency. They have to learn not to go after just this impossible perfection that will never exist. They have to learn to draw the line and say, this is good enough. Let's go and focus on something more important. This is good enough. Let's put our energy into something more productive. Don't waste time on drama. Because a lot of sheep, because of that vanity and the perfection, specifically the females, would be involved in a lot of drama this year. But if they can shift that focus, not be so vain in vanity, and allow themselves to focus on more top priorities, that will serve a better outcome and get a better return. They will be a lot more rewarded for their energy and the time and the focus they put on that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Monkey.
So most people, when they think of monkey, what's the one word you think of when you think of monkey? The first word.
Just curiosity.
Mischief. What people don't realize with the monkey is they are so crafty at doing things their way, getting things their way. And what they don't realize is this year they will be specifically challenged with being outsmarted. Whether it be their friends, their family, they will be outsmarted. And they have to be cautious to make sure that they can see the big picture. Because as soon as they don't see the big picture, they will become prey to someone who will try to outsmart them or outdo them for that other person's personal gain. So if you don't want to be someone's prey and you don't want to be outsmarted or you don't want to be disappointed, you have to make sure that this year is when you start adding better skills to your talent skill set. You start making sure that this year you make these changes sooner, make better changes, get rid of the baggage, right? Relearn things, unlearn so you can relearn better things.
Right.
Because if you don't start this year specifically, it will make all the other years a little more difficult, and it adds up and adds up and adds up. And then what happens? People would play tricks on you more than you would like. So for monkey, they have to be very, very careful not to play tricks on others, specifically this year, because they will be outsmarted, specifically in business. And if a monkey was to try and start their own business this year, it will have a great uphill challenge.
It's interesting how these things can affect us in so many ways. Of course. So what's maybe like a skill or two that you think would be very critical for
number one with monkey? Patience. They don't have any. Want everything right away. So they have to have patience. Next, they have to make sure they don't play tricks on people or any of these games. So monkeys tend to like to show two faces. One when they want something from the right people, and one when they feel that they're comfortable in a certain group, that they could just more be themselves. So monkeys have to be very cautious not to be two-faced, and to make sure that they develop enough patience so that they know how to develop the other skills better. But if there's no patience, then they will never take the time to develop the other skills. Otherwise, if they don't follow this pattern, they will be outsmarted and they will be very disappointed.
Make sure you develop that patience to all my monkeys out there.
Rooster. So most people don't realize this, but when you see the rooster first thing in the morning, it has to be the first one to wake up. It has to be the first one to make you know that it gave the first sound at the crack of dawn. It had to be the first one so you see that has the vanity. So roosters are a little more dangerous than sheep. Here's why. When you see a rooster, how well do they get along well with other roosters?
I don't know.
They do not want to see another rooster. They fight.
Is it
very territorial, very ego-based.
Yeah.
They do not get along well with people at all. The only time they get along well with people is when they want something from you. That's a rooster. have to be very careful this year for Rooster, because out of all the signs this year, the year of the boar, the Rooster has the most obstacles it has ever faced in its life.
Wow.
Why? Because this year of the boar is all, we talk about loyalty and intelligence. Rooster doesn't have any of those. They've said that they did, but they tend to say something and do something different.
Mm-hmm.
So for the Rooster, they have to make sure that they stop focusing on vanity, stop trying to be first at everything, stop trying to think that they're better than everybody else, stop trying to think that they need to be on top of everyone and show off, because all those things will rob their ability to progress this year and develop skills. So the first thing they have to learn to do is learn what the word humble means, because if they don't learn what that word means, life will show them very fast. And out of all the years on the Zodiac, this year the Rooster has the most unfortunate outcome because of that ego, because of the things that they have done. They have to make sure they develop that patience and other skills to so-called make sure that they're not paying for what they did wrong from before.
So it's not to scare the roosters, it's to help prepare
Of course.
them. So if you know a rooster, or if you are a rooster, share it with somebody share this video, this podcast with.
And their health will be challenged. Their health would take a toll this year. So they have to make sure that they do what it takes to remain as healthy as possible. Don't take it for granted.
We're almost there.
So the dog. So next to the boar, the dog is probably the most loyal sign of all the Zodiac. But the issue is, what are they loyal to? Who are they loyal to? So dogs tend to always have something to say, okay?
Mm-hmm.
They always tend to never be short for a conversation. They always tend to be very good at entering a room and just mingling and fit it in.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. That's a strength.
Mm-hmm.
But where do they go wrong? Is their insecurities tend to haunt them. Their insecurities tend to creep up. And so they tend to try to hide those insecurities by speaking to more people, or trying to go to more events, or try to put themselves in a more adventurous way of going out and trying different things. Just make sure that when you are doing those adventurous things, you're not covering up those insecurities. You're dealing with them so that you can unlearn them, so you can relearn the right type of loyalty to yourself, the right type of respect to those around you, so that once you do that, the dog tends to make the most amount of family, most amount of people who are loyal to it, because it's so loyal to you. Very, very prosperous year for dog, but they have to make sure that they're not sabotaging their fortune.
Very nice.
Now in the year of the boar. So when you think of the year of the boar, since you're a year of the boar, one word that describes you that you think fits into this. Just one word.
I would say loyal.
Loyalty is good, but also not afraid to work. So some people say, they think, that's the year of the pig. Also, he's a pig. So they think all pigs are bad. But what they don't realize, it's a misnomer, because it was never the year of the pig, it's the year of the boar. Okay, get that first.
Right.
Secondly, just because it's the year of the boar, it doesn't mean that you are a sleazebag. It doesn't mean that you are a womanizer. It doesn't mean that you hurt people. It doesn't mean any of that. That's just ideology that is unaddressed. So we're going to address it here. When we think of the year of the boar in the Eastern culture, the Eastern culture has it where they almost worship it, but they do wrong by it. See, what happens is they think wrong by that. So when we say worship, they think, so Chinese New Year, gotta go offer or sacrifice a boar or a pig. That's not how you do it. How do you take a life and then expect to have fortune come back to you?
That doesn't make too much sense.
But because they think it has qualities of intelligence, it has qualities in business, has qualities of loyalty, hard work, and they want all of these qualities for their company, for themselves, so that they can have people that work for them or that they work for themselves to have more money. Now that's where they get it wrong. What we understand is we take those qualities without hurting life and we embody them. We don't just take a life and say, you're going to be sacrificed for my bidding or for my well-being. That never works.
Right, that's selfish.
That is the most selfish thing you can do. And when you're selfish like that, you're more likely to gamble the fortune that you have attained. You're more likely to take a risk. You're most likely to ruin the loyalty of those that have been loyal to you. And then you don't work as hard. And so then you become the pig that everyone has the ideology of that. Yeah, you are a sleazebag. Because you've embodied the wrong side, the dark side. You've done wrong to allow that dark side to consume you. So in terms of the year of the boar, we have to make sure that loyalty to the right people, hard working, never ever look back, never be afraid to be the hardest worker in the room, never be afraid to unlearn something so you can relearn something better, like yourself, right? And greatest of all, make sure that the relationship does not become at risk. Now, when we say that, do not say things, do not risk things, do not tempt things by saying things to a partner that just because you felt like you wanted to say it, because that partner will make you pay eternally for one thing you said that was wrong and hold it against you for eternity. I promise you that.
Okay.
So you have to make sure this year you say less, you do more.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yep.
So once we understand that, then we're like, that makes more sense. And then it's like, then you think back to all the other signs. It's like, you know what? All the other signs should say less and do more. All of a sudden, all the other signs should say, you know what? Less distractions, more target. All the other signs should say, you know what? Hurt less, build more bridges. And it's like, okay, even though you're that sign, certain ones will just be affected by other things faster or in their own way. When we say that, just because you have not felt what it's like to be bitten by a snake, it doesn't mean that a snake can't hurt you with words they say to you. It doesn't mean that you've never been bitten by a tiger. It doesn't mean that their words or what they say to you can't hurt you. But the whole thing is to not tempt them to bite you, to not tempt them to hurt you, because you didn't put yourself at risk or them at risk. Because as soon as you put their security, their comfort, their ideology of perfection at risk, you become a target. You become prey. So this year we have to make sure we don't put ourselves as prey for the others. We have to make sure we're building the bridges and really providing unity, because that's what this year is all about. And as soon as you can provide unity and build those bridges, you will be rewarded and you will have a greater fortune that comes to you.
That's wonderful. Well, I think that, you know, there's something to learn from all of these signs. Just because I'm a boar, you know, I see certain things that I need to work on with the qualities that the other animals possess. And I also see how I can help develop some of those strengths that the others possess. And that's why, for those watching, I really like this calendar, because every month it is a reminder of...
Of course.
It's a reminder of what to, you know, what to be aware of. It's a reminder of what skills to harness.
And it has all the qualities listed here.
Right. So this is, if you would like a calendar, then just go to shop.hermansue.com. And we also have a lot more different things that, you know, you can wear so you can represent a part of who you are and also learn to embody, you know, all the skills, all the strengths, and to conquer all of the weaknesses.
And let's show our empathy.
Yes, because it's all about unity this year.